Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Good to see everybody. Sorry that we are running a few minutes late. Tonight was the first of 6 performances that my son is going to be in for choir. He's a part of 2 different choirs. And so it's that time of year, it kind of leads perfectly into what we're going to talk about tonight about all the holiday stress and all the stuff that's going on for everybody. So let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. For those of you, this is your first time. My name is Stephanie McPhail. I specialize in ending that back and forth in crappy relationships and moving on to create your best life, whether you are single or you are divorced. I like to come live every Thursday to share with everyone tips and tools that they can use. And right now, what we're going through is called the Holiday Rescue Remedy. This is a series that I decided to start a few weeks ago. This is week 3 or 4. I don't remember anymore. But I know that this is a super stressful time of the year. So I wanted to make sure that I came on and shared, some tidbits, some information to make sure that everyone's getting the support that they need. So make sure that you ask questions. If I don't get to answer them live, I promise you I will come back and answer them later. Just make sure that you tag me. You can always me a private message if you need to. So on that note, tonight we're gonna dive in. So tonight we're gonna talk about managing holiday stress in a toxic environment. And so I know that there's a lot of people in a lot of different places. There are people that are still in that unhealthy relationship and they're trying to figure out what they need to do. There are people that have left and now they're trying to navigate what the new holidays look like for them. And then, of course, there are people that maybe have left a long time ago, but there's maybe some toxicity left in their family relationships. And, we don't need to go, dive down the rabbit hole when it comes to what the last year has looked like for politics. But there's a lot of discord in a lot of families when it comes to differences of opinions. We'll leave it at that when it comes to politics. So that's kind of coming into this as well. When we're talking about toxic relationships, it's not just the relationships that we have with our significant other. A toxic relationship could be with your parents, with your siblings, with your job, with extended family. It could be with food. Toxicity and unhealthy patterns could be literally in any area of your life. So today we're just going to really kind of dive into how to deal with that toxicity and how to move forward from it, like to deal with it in the best way possible. So I first want to welcome you. It really feels like for most of us that it should be the joyful season and they're supposed to feel super good, but some of you might be bracing yourself for the tension, the conflict, and the emotional manipulation. I get it. I've been there. For me, every holiday was that reminder of how long I had been dealing with the unhealthy relationship, how long I had been suffering, how another year of my life had gone by. And if you've dealt with a toxic person, they love to ruin special things, whether it's your birthday or Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever holiday it is. They love to mess that up. And my ex for my birthday, would do some really nice things and then do everything he could to mess it up. So he would tell me that I didn't appreciate anything that he did for me. Of course, it was all manipulation, but it was a good way for him to manipulate me because it would mess me up. It would mess up my thinking. And so our head starts to think like, well, they're not all bad. There's some good that's there. And so here we are trying to deal with all of this. We're bracing ourselves, maybe hoping for the best, but kind of expecting the worst. So I really want to help you to really navigate the season with strength, clarity, and peace. I don't want you to go in saying, oh my gosh, I just have to get through it, as opposed to what can we do to best protect ourselves and prepare ourselves for whatever it is that the holiday is going to bring. Does that make sense to everybody? And again, leave your comments below. I will go back and answer them. This is for you, so I want to make sure that I'm answering all the questions that you have. So here's the overview of what we're going to be talking about is really recognizing and managing holiday stress in toxic environments. We're going to talk about navigating emotional triggers and manipulation with confidence. And we're going to talk about setting boundaries to protect your peace so that you don't have guilt. All right, so signs of holiday stress. And I'm sure leave some of your comments of what some maybe things that you're feeling right now when it comes to the holidays coming in. I'd love to hear your perspective. Maybe there's heightened conflict or tension during the gatherings. You know that Uncle Paul gets drunk and says ridiculous things, or that you're going to have to see your ex and deal with seeing them and then having the children and the send off that you have to deal with. Maybe you have a mother-in-law that you don't get along well with. So you already kind of know there's that heightened discomfort when you go into these family gatherings. Feeling obligated to make everything perfect. I think as women, we put this really heavy load on ourselves to try to make everything be perfect so that the kids are happy, so that the extended family is happy. We want to have the perfect table set and have everything perfect. But that really adds a lot of added stress for us. The emotional manipulation from our family or our partner telling us that we don't do enough, or that we are, whatever negative things they can tell us to put us down and make us feel bad about ourselves. And then I'll add there too, is that extra, very often we are the only ones to plan the Christmas things. And then we end up not even getting a present for ourselves. So we take care of literally everybody else. And then that partner who makes you feel bad, and all these people that are trying to put you down, they don't even give you holiday gifts. So you've taken care of everybody else, but no one has reciprocated and supported you in any way, shape, or form. And then, of course, there's the guilt around saying no and prioritizing yourself. And again, feel free to add to the list as well. So why do the holidays really amplify the tension? Why do we feel more stressed out? Well, obviously, like we said before, there's those increased expectations and pressure. We're worried about making it memorable. We only have a certain amount of holidays with our kids. And, if they're out of the house, we want to make sure that they're happy to come back for the holidays. We want to make sure that our family is happy. We don't want to let anybody down. And there's that extra expectation and pressure that we have. There might be memories or traditions that trigger unresolved emotions. Maybe just being in your childhood home triggers you. Maybe, something that someone in your family says to you. Maybe there's something they always say to you, and that triggers you to remember something that was never resolved as a child. And then, of course, there's more opportunities for manipulation in social settings. We see each other for Thanksgiving, and then we see each other for Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day, and then possibly New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and all of those parties and stuff in between. So there's all these opportunities. There's that many more opportunities for there to be social settings where there is also manipulation. And so you might have the hopes that you're going to go in and things are good, but you're concerned or worried that they're going to mess it up, or they're going to make you feel bad during this, what's supposed to be a special event. So what do we want to do? Well, some of the things to really manage this conflict is to recognize the manipulation tactics, recognize when they are gaslighting us. So be aware. So what is gaslighting? Is somebody else telling you that something that you know is true is not. That's the easiest way of explaining it. I know people say gaslighting all the time, but just to make sure that you're very well aware of gaslighting, it's literally just somebody else telling you something that you know is not true, but they're trying to make you believe that it is. And if you've been gaslit for a good significant part of your life, whether it's through your relationship with your current relationship or your upbringing, then you start to get confused. We start to wonder, well, what's real and what's not real. Another manipulation tactic is guilt tripping, making you feel bad. Why aren't you coming to Christmas for us this year? Why didn't you make a turkey for us? Why didn't you put up a tree like you always do? All of those things to try to make you feel bad, to have that power and control over you. And I'm sure that resonates. There's a few that I'm using specific examples from some current clients that I've talked to recently. And then passive aggressiveness is somebody being completely passive and then lashing out at you. So it seems like it's totally fine. They don't say anything. They're super passive. And then all of a sudden you're getting yelled and screamed at. And it's something that's kind of out of the blue that, and then of course, anytime there's aggressiveness going on, we don't feel safe. So then that heightens our stress levels, our anxiety, and makes us not feel comfortable or feel safe. So when you know what manipulation looks like, you can stop internalizing it and start responding from a place of calm and control. So when you know, and I would say, this is going to be one of the things we talk about, is if you can say ahead of time, like, I know that my mom does this, or my uncle does this, or my significant other does these things, at least we can point out that's gaslighting, that's guilt tripping, that's passive aggressiveness, that is trying to manipulate and control me. If we can tell what they're doing, it's easier not to react. I mean, think about it. As soon as you see, like, I see right through you, I know exactly what you're doing. we can actually have, like, we can be at more of a place of peace and control, so that we're not really as reactionary if we're super aware of how this person is actually manipulating us. So that empowers us to just be completely aware of what it is. And again, if you're not sure, then just sit down and journal. You could journal, what are ways that my family manipulates me? My fill in the blank manipulates me. Hold on, I lost my page here. Did I use? Okay, I came back. I'm gonna keep laughing because I got a new computer and I'm still trying to learn it. Sometimes I do things and I don't even know how I did it. Anyway, so yeah, so you have to make sure that you're aware of those manipulation tactics. The next thing is practice emotional grounding techniques, breathing exercises. One of my favorite things, because you can literally do that anywhere. You don't have to leave. I mean, you could, but you don't have to. But breathing exercises so that you can stay calm in the moment. So one of my favorite breathing exercises is the 4-4-4. So it's breathing in through your nose for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, and then hold it for 4 counts. Thanks for all the likes and loves. I see them coming in. I appreciate it. So the 4-4-4, I love that one because it's just so easy to remember. So when you're stressed and your brain might not be functioning as well, because I don't know about you, but my brain doesn't work as well when I'm under these kind of weird family stressful things, or put on the spot like that. So when you have that, that's something super simple you can just grab. It just makes it a lot easier. So breathing techniques are a super easy thing that you can use. There's also the 8-7-6 breathing technique. And so it's 6-7-8. So you take a deep breath in through 6. It was the other way around. Hold it for as long as you can, and then breathe it all out for the count of 8. So you're really breathing it out through your diaphragm. It forces your body to slow everything down. So that's another really great breathing technique that I definitely would recommend. And then, of course, visualizing. If you visualize, like, picture yourself surrounded by a shield of peace and calm before you even walk into the gathering that you have to go to, where it's like, breathe in, imagine everything being calm, everything working out the way it needs to. Remind yourself, out loud or in your head, I'm going to get through this. If I need to leave early, I can leave early. I have the power to control my environment, as in, if I don't like it there, I can leave. But visualize things being calm for yourself and try to stay in that moment of being calm. And again, you can walk away from anything that doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel right for you. I say that to my kids all the time. I say that to my clients all the time. And I know we're people pleasers, which is one of the wonderful, beautiful things about us, but also is what gets us stuck in these toxic relationships. Is we don't have to be worried about people pleasing everybody. We have to be worried about taking care of ourselves, especially in these type of environments. So another thing to do is to journal your triggers ahead of time. And always take notes. I should have started with this. I'm so sorry that I didn't. Always take notes during these, because I always give lots of real hands-on stuff that you can do. But journal your triggers ahead of time. So I kind of alluded to that before, but if you can journal ahead of time your triggers, then you can actually write out some of the responses or the strategies that you can have. So again, go back to the example of my mother says these things that are terrible. Let's give an example. I'll speak personally. My mother tells me I've gained a bunch of weight. It's like a common one, right? So if that is something that is a trigger, so right away you feel like you need to respond and you're going to get angry about it. What is something that you can do when you feel triggered by your mom saying you've gained a lot of weight? Is it something like, thank you for noticing, I appreciate it. Or, I haven't been trying to watch my weight, appreciate you noticing. Or, or you could even say something like, I don't need comments about my weight. I don't find that very appropriate. Anything that you like, be prepared ahead of time to say what you need to say, or to say nothing. What is going to be, your family best, your triggers the best. What's going to be the best strategy for you to be able to handle that when you are in that environment? Is this helpful so far? Let me just make sure is this helpful? Let me just go through. I'm seeing lots of loves. I appreciate it. Just want to see, is there anything that kind of stands out so far? Anything that you have extra questions about? And again, I can always go back later. All right. I don't see any questions. Okay, cool. All right. So Another thing to do is to respond instead of reacting. So, a lot of the times we come from this place of reaction. Somebody says something we don't like, and bam, we've got to react right away. We get frustrated, angry, we want to react and lash out. That's just going to escalate things. And if we don't want to escalate, we don't want to have this be a big blowout, then we can't control other people, but we can control ourselves. And that's something really important to keep in mind. We can't make anyone behave the way that they are not going to behave, but it's our responsibility to handle it in an appropriate way for ourselves. I can't make someone be more understanding or make someone not say mean, nasty things, but I can control how I respond to those things. So when someone says something hurtful or manipulative, take a breath, respond calmly, and you could say something as easy as, I'm not comfortable discussing this right now. Simple. And if they don't like you saying that, not really your problem. You're allowed to have boundaries, which we're going to talk about in a minute. You're allowed to say that you don't want to talk about it. In fact, I have some clients that are actually in the process of divorce, and I reminded them that for their holidays, they're going to let those family members know ahead of time, I do not want to talk about dating, and I do not want to talk about the divorce unless I bring it up. Please don't bring it up. And message people separately and let them know that. And that way it's off the table. So that way, when you do say, I'm not comfortable bringing it up right now, then they've already been warned. So they already know that ahead of time. Don't feel bad to let them know that you're not going to be talking about those specific things. And in fact, I really don't know why family members, like the ink isn't even dry on the divorce papers yet, and family members think it's okay for them to ask about whether or not you're dating somebody or whatever. And it's like, dude, get out of my business, leave me alone. Because for some people that's really triggering, and some people are saying, yes, I'm going through the divorce, but I don't want to jump into another relationship. I want to enjoy my freedom. Like, stop asking me, because it's like this internal pressure that starts to build up. If we don't have our own good boundaries and we're worried about making other people happy. So people keep saying, when are you dating again? We're like, oh my gosh, why am I not dating again? So again, good idea. Don't feel badly to let people know ahead of time what you don't want to talk about, and then enforce it. That's what a boundary is. I'm not comfortable talking about that right now. That's okay. It's a full sentence. Practice using neutral, non-defensive language. So instead of you always, you do this, I can't stand when you XYZ. I am not comfortable with this. I don't want to speak about this. This is not something that is in my wheelhouse right now. Things like that. If you put it back on yourself, it becomes less defensive. As soon as you start saying you always, you should, things like that, you're going to escalate. So when you are not defensive, it is easier to disarm the toxic types of people. And, it's actually really funny. I have two kids that are under 10, and they've been to bullying classes, and the bullying classes are really just kind of the same as like any other bully. Could be an adult bully or a kid bully. It literally doesn't matter. And one of the great things they say is if somebody says something like, something that's really terrible, that's a bullying thing, that's not real and doesn't make any sense, you could turn around with like, and say something completely off the wall. Like, well, yeah, the sky is blue. Or like, oh yeah, how about them Knicks? Or, whatever. Like, have something else. So then it kind of disarms the person. So they're like, what are they talking about? So it's something else that doesn't make any sense. It could be like, oh, that turkey, I don't even know. Think of an example that you might have, but, come up with something else that will throw off that question that the person asked. That might be something that's hurtful towards you. Don't make it about them, but instead have some kind of phrase that's ready to go back. Now, I'll give an example. So I had a client of mine that was really worried about being at a wedding with her ex-husband, and they were going to be on a beach. It was a beautiful location. And so we practiced her making an excuse to get up and leave because she felt weird just getting up and going. So instead of her just getting up and leaving, which is totally okay too, she practiced saying, oh, look, a whale. Literally, that was her thing. It didn't make any sense, whatever it was, but any uncomfortable situation. And she told her closest friends, hey, if I say, hey, look, a whale, probably is no whale. I'm just using this as a way to get out of an uncomfortable situation. So play along. So she let like 2 or 3 of her closest, people know what her intention was. And during the wedding, on 2 or 3 or 4 separate occasions, she got up and said, "Oh, look, a whale," and walked over. And actually, at one point, they did see a whale, which just kind of added to the whole fun of it. And actually, this was a few years ago. Her now kids have gotten her like a necklace that has a little whale tail because it was an inside joke. But what is something that for you that you could maybe have something like that you let kind of other people know? What is your like safe phrase to help you get out of an uncomfortable situation? So I hope that helps a little bit. All right. Another one is having boundaries. I know that this one feels so hard, and we're going to talk about it over and over and over again, because boundaries are essential. In order for us to be individuals, we need to have boundaries. And I say all the time, I didn't know what a boundary was or that it was possible to have one till I was about 34, 35 years old. It just like blew me away. Like, I can have a boundary. I can tell people what I'm not comfortable with, or, so we have to make sure that we are practicing our boundaries. Whether we're in the relationship or out of it, moving forward, if we want to really be, comfortable in our surroundings, having healthy boundaries will help us to be comfortable and stay comfortable. So why are boundaries essential? Boundaries aren't about pushing other people away. They're about protecting your peace and your energy. So I was kind of think of a boundary. I always think of like this clear bubble, and it's like, so, I don't want it to be a wall necessarily, because I don't want it to be like this impenetrable wall. And I think sometimes people, when they come up with boundaries for themselves, especially as they're starting to learn and practice, they have these like, these walls up to protect themselves. And so that's not really what we mean. We just want to make sure that you are able to stand up and speak up for yourself. Make sure that you're protecting your peace and energy. So your little bubble of peace and energy might be negatively affected by someone triggering you. So it's not your job to tell them, "Don't trigger me." It's your job to decide how you're going to react when you are triggered. What's going to happen when somebody does trigger you? What are the things that are non-negotiables for you? Start thinking about what those boundaries are for you. And so some examples of some holiday boundaries. This might be limiting time at your gatherings. So, hey, I'll stay for dinner, but I'm going to need to leave by 8:00. So let them know ahead of time that you're going to be there, but you need to be gone by 8:00, or fill in the blank of what time. Declining tasks or requests. I can't bake this year, but I'd love to bring something store-bought. And don't say, "Is that cool?" Just, "I'm not baking this year, but I'll bring something that's store-bought." And if they say no, you're like, "Okay, cool. Then, I won't bring anything. I appreciate it." Somebody else that might be watching. "No, I'm not putting up a tree this year because I'm just not in the mood and it's triggering to me." Okay, fine. You got to set that boundary. Having that healthy emotional space. I'm happy to celebrate, but I'd rather avoid discussing this topic. Like I said before, I don't want to talk about my divorce. I don't want to talk about whether or not I'm dating. Let those people know ahead of time. And if you let them know ahead of time, it makes it much easier to enforce that boundary when you are in the situation. How do you set boundaries guilt-free? Now, this is the thing. Most of us feel guilty, especially when we're first learning boundaries. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Does that resonate for you? Give me some hearts. Give me some likes. Put a number 1 in the comments if you're like, "Yeah, I'm worried about boundaries because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So that's why I don't set any boundaries." Now, again, in order to be a healthy adult human being, we need to have healthy boundaries. You want to be in a relationship, you want to make sure that you are setting those healthy boundaries. So how do you reframe that guilt? Feeling guilty doesn't mean you're wrong. Okay. So, you might not want to set that boundary. And you might feel, I always give the example, somebody wrote, "I get so excited watching you." Thank you. I appreciate it. I always feel like when I know I need to set a boundary, I have this feeling in my throat, like my throat is closing, and like it feels tight in my throat. And so it's this thing and it's this warning to me that I have to say something, but I don't want to. Like, that's literally, I know that I have to set a boundary when I feel that feeling of a tightness in my throat. And it's weird because, like, back in the olden days, before I did all this work and before I started helping people heal from these unhealthy relationships, I probably would have taken that as a sign of like, oh, don't say anything. But instead, I've come to learn that that's just my fear of upsetting someone, but it's something that it means also that I have to do it. So when you have that feeling, you might notice somewhere else in your body that this doesn't feel right. But again, just know it means you're a good person because you're worried about hurting somebody else's feeling. That's great. That's wonderful. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it anyway. It means you're doing something new to protect yourself. So it's always okay to protect yourself. You deserve to protect yourself and to protect your peace. Affirm yourself. Say this before you go in. Say this as your morning mantra for the next how many days until Christmas? 20 days until Christmas? Feeling guilty doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're doing, I'm sorry. I'm allowed to prioritize my well-being even during the holidays. I was wondering, I'm like, what? I have notes that I write that I have for my outline. I was like, it's not yous, it's always I for affirmations. So affirmations are always I statements. So I am allowed to prioritize my well-being even during the holidays. Write that down. Say it every morning in the mirror. Say it to your friends. Just keep saying it. But write that shit down. It's much easier to remember if you write it down. Use your I statements. I need to focus on my own peace this year. So keep all these things in mind, like and come up with your own. Like I can't know exactly what are going to be the affirmations that you need, but use them in current I statements. All right. So there's something, they're not, I'm going to, it's I'm allowed to, I will, and I will, I'm going to, or I'm doing. Like, what are those things that you're actually doing? And then the next thing is, take action on a survival plan. Like, come up with this survival plan. Identify your triggers and plan your responses, like we said ahead of time. Decide what boundaries you need, set them, and practice them. The more you practice them, the easier it's going to feel as you enforce those boundaries. Give yourself permission to skip traditions that are draining. I've got like 4 clients currently that are not going to families' houses who are extra specially triggering. It doesn't mean they're never going to go there again. It's that they're in their beginning of their healing journey, and they know that it's going to set them back, and they're not willing to put themselves there. And I give them so much credit for doing that. It's okay to say no. Any of the traditions that feel draining, whether it's we always make cookies, maybe that's too much for you. We always put up a tree. We always go to this place for dinner. We always go to Uncle so-and-so's for Christmas Eve. We always drive to, whatever those things are, make sure you're prioritizing your self-care. And I always say, check in with yourself. Before you say yes to something, and this is something that will be huge if you actually follow through with this, is practice the pause. So when someone says, hey, are you coming for Christmas this year? The answer is, I will get back to you. Practice saying that. I don't care if the answer is automatic. You already know it's yes. Hang up the phone, stop the conversation, whatever it is, come back and feel your body. Like, actually go in with your body, because all of us that have been in these crappy relationships, we've ignored all those feelings in our bodies. Where our body was screaming and yelling at us not to do what we did, and we ignored it completely. So now we want to reconnect mind and body, which is why I always recommend yoga and exercise and all that stuff. But anyway, we want to be able to listen to our body. So our body that starts to feel tense, anxious, nervous, when we're going to say yes to something, then that means the answer will now be no. And know the difference between exciting, this is something different, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I feel like I would rather tell them that I'm doing my hair that night or poke daggers in my eyes than do that thing they want me to do. It's okay to say no. I'm not going to build, gingerbread houses with you this year, or I'm not going to drive 2,000 miles or whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to do those things you normally want me to do. So practice the pause, check in, and then depending on what your body tells you, tell them that the answer is yes or no, and decide. You might really want to still do that and keep that tradition. That's great. You want to come up with a new tradition this year? Then go for it. You are stronger than you think. I know some of you might be saying, I don't know if I can do this. I can't stick up for myself. I'm such a people pleaser. I'm so worried about upsetting people, upsetting my family. What if they disown me? What if they don't talk to me? What if I cause more problems? You sticking up for yourself is not going to cause more problems to people that appreciate you. and respect you. The people that have been taking advantage of you for years, they might not like it. That's true. But it doesn't mean that you should not have those healthy boundaries still in place. Just because other people might not be happy about you having boundaries and you taking care of yourself doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing exactly those things. You deserve to have a peaceful and joyful holiday season, no matter what. You deserve that peace. So the steps that you take now will help you reclaim your peace, not just for the holidays, but for your life moving forward. If you want 2025 to be a kick-ass year for you, the things you start doing and implementing now will increase the chance of all those beautiful things happening for you for 2025. You want a beautiful, fulfilling love in 2025? I know this is cliche, but it starts with you. Whether you're in the relationship or out of the relationship, it always starts with making ourselves a priority, sticking up for ourselves, and taking action on taking care of us, speaking up for ourselves, and learning what we need in order to feel worthy and stick up for ourselves and do all those wonderful things. So hopefully, was that helpful to everyone? Just write in the comments helpful if that was helpful. Let me just see if there's any questions here. And if that was helpful for you, give me some likes and love so I know, get some more hearts in there. I always love seeing that this was helpful for you. Okay, I don't see any questions, but feel free, and I know Facebook is weird sometimes. I don't always get to see everybody, and this goes on multiple platforms. So please send me a private message if you have any questions. What I'm going to do is I am going to put in the comments, or actually maybe David will do that for me. But I'm going to put in the comments I'll give you a link to download the free holiday stress survival guide. I think this is going to be super helpful. If you are not able to see that, then just go ahead and send me a private message and I will go and send you that link to the holiday stress survival guide. Definitely download it. Like I said, this is one of several weeks of this series for dealing with the holidays. We're going to continue going right up until, I guess, the new year. Because I actually learned today that the Monday after New Year's Day is the highest amount of searches for divorce. Isn't that interesting? I mean, it makes complete sense to me because probably a lot of people were like me and they were like, oh God, another year of dealing with this. And they haven't changed and whatever. And I'm going to promise myself to do things differently this year. But we're going to keep going with this holiday rescue remedy throughout until the new year comes, because I want to make sure that you're getting that support. I mean, people get so depressed at the holidays, they think about ending their life. And if any of you that you're like, I can't get through this, know that you can. This is not a forever. This is a for now. And so if we can get you through this, then you can do anything. I mean, fuck everything else. Seriously, like you can do anything. You are way stronger than you realize. You are more powerful than you've been led to believe. And you have the potential to create something beautiful and amazing for yourself. We just have to get out of this cycle that you've been stuck in and start taking action on something different for yourself. So grab that link, grab that holiday survival guide. Of course, you can always send me a private message and you can learn about working with us and what that would look like. And if you have, send me a private message, DM me. That's always the easiest thing. I would encourage you to share one boundary or action step in the comments or send me a private message. Give me one takeaway of something that you are going to take action on as soon as this is over. Whether it's writing down what your triggers are, writing down how you're going to react to your triggers. I don't really give a crap what it is, necessarily which one, but write one of them down and do it. So, hey, I'm not going to go to Christmas this year. I'm not going to buy that tree. I'm not going to bake that cake or whatever it is. Write down one of the boundaries or action steps. Write it down in the comments or feel free to send me a private message and let me know what that is. But I'll be excited to hear it because the power comes from you. The power comes from you. And you, again, have the power to create whatever it is you want. You're like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It's been inside you all along, but sometimes you needed to be reminded of that power in order to create the next best chapter of your life. So on that note, if there are no other questions, I always love spending time with all of you. Thank you so much. Grab those resources, grab all the resources that you can, start taking, that action on creating your best life now. And I'm always here if you need me. Feel free to reach out. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.